Okay, so the movies are art, but they are also a business.
Correct.
And if they don't make money, heads will roll.
People will be screwed.
So one of the things we wanted to do is while we're talking about 2010, all these movies, let's talk about the movies that made the most money in 2010. Weirdly, we're talking about none of these movies.
Zero of these movies we're not.
Zero of the three.
We didn't even think about, honestly, I didn't think about any of these movies even when I was choosing mine.
I looked at one of them, but it was a sequel, and it's weird to do a sequel if you're not talking about the ones that came before, and also just homework-wise, we would have had to watch 3 movies to talk about one.
Right.
So no. But here were the topic. The third highest grossing film of 2010 was Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland.
I completely forgot this movie existed until I looked at this outline.
I love Helena Bonham Carter with her big fucking head. Her Red Queen is hysterically.
She is hysterical.
Funny. So good. I don't remember liking much else.
I mean, I love the story of Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
But I just felt kind of cold after
And
this.
it deserves to be trippy.
Right.
It's fine because it's a
obviously.
trippy story. Even the Disney version got a little weird.
I mean, the Cheshire Cat in the Disney version is real weird.
Yeah.
The poof of smoke.
Yeah.
Hookah
But
smoke.
anyway, that was number 3. The second highest grossing film of the year was Toy Story 3.
Can I tell you guys a secret?
Go ahead.
I've never seen any of the Toy Story movies.
What?
I've only seen the first one. Is that weird? Matt's judging.
Matt, oh my gosh, Matt's face right now.
I mean, Pixar is part of the iconography of actual movie now. I mean,
I
how
know.
do you not?
I know.
Is it just because they're animated and considered to be kids films?
No,
or?
did I
just
lose
missed them.
all credibility?
No, I just missed them. I mean, I like Toy Story, and I would gladly watch the sequels. I just kind of never got around to it. And
Yeah.
because I missed Toy Story 2, I didn't want to see Toy Story 3 because I thought I was missing a piece. And when Toy Story 4 came out, I was like, I clearly
many
am
Toy
not
Stories.
caught up.
Yeah.
So if we do a Toy Story marathon, I'm in. But I mean, I just haven't seen them.
I mean, I should definitely probably see the first 2 at least.
The first 2 at least. I mean, the first one. I mean, first Toy Story kicked off everything. Animated.
I think I did see number 2. Number 2 was Joan Cusack as the girl. She wasn't in Toy Story 1, was she?
She was in Toy Story 2. Yeah.
Okay, so I've seen 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So I'm ready for 3.
Okay.
I could watch 3.
I haven't seen 3 or 4, so we'd probably.
Okay,
All
well, then,
right.
you and your judgy face.
All right
But I
then.
have seen the first Pixar film.
Judgerson over here. I saw the first one too.
Okay, look, I vow by the end of the 2010 season to have watched at least the first Toy Story.
Okay.
That's my pledge right
here.
here.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's fun. The highest grossing film of 2010 is also the second highest grossing film of all time. And it is a steaming pile of shit called Avatar.
Oh, man.
The Blue Kitty movie from hell. It's terrible.
There's like 3 or 4 more of them coming too.
Oh, my
He's doing-
God.
James Cameron keeps saying that. He said that for the last 10 years,
Yeah.
and we still don't have an Avatar 2. Not that I don't know who's calling and crying out for an
Exactly.
Avatar 2.
That's a really good question.
No one wants it. Hopefully Cher will never stop her farewell tour, and hopefully we will never get another Avatar movie.
I mean, I want to support Zoe Saldana and everything she does, but I don't think I can see an Avatar 2.
Oh
I
my
saw the
God.
first one and in the movie theater, but I don't think I can see an Avatar 2.
I think it might actually be Disney pushing for it because they have a whole world of
I
this
know.
built at Animal Kingdom.
It's all bullshit.
Like, you can fly through the trees as a blue person.
Memories like the corners of my mind, misty watercolor memories.
Scattered pictures of the smiles we left behind, smiles we gave to one another for the way we were.
Welcome back to the Rewind Project. I'm Eric.
I'm Allie.
I'm Matt.
So we're back, folks. This is our first regular episode of the new year. It's 2020.
It's 2020, and we're kicking it off with a pretty popular movie.
Yeah, I think so, and a pretty it's iconic in its way. I mean, every year, just to give you a little insight into kind of how we do this, we talk about 7 movies that are 10 years old, 7 that are 25, 50, and 75 years old. And Allie and I choose all the movies, but we start off by saying, what's a movie that we definitely have to talk about that both of us would pick, like, duh. And then we each get to pick 3. And Inception was our movie this time that we said for 2010, when we looked at the list of movies that were made this year, oh yeah, we've totally got to talk about Inception.
And it was a pretty definitive, this is what we're doing. Like, there was not a lot of waffling about it.
We didn't discuss that one a whole lot. And it was written and directed by Christopher Nolan. Also known for, like, the Batman flicks, the Christian Bale Batman movies, which are still the best ones, I think.
I mean, this might inflame some of our listeners, but I think Christopher Nolan was the best Batman director.
Oh, totally.
I would agree with that, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, Tim Burton brought the superhero movie back to, like, the modern era.
Sure, and I love that movie.
There's definitely a line between the Superman movies with Christopher Reeve and, you know, Michael Keaton as Batman with the sets and the weirdness and all that.
Jack
you know,
Nicholson.
Yeah, all that was great. I mean, and I like Tim Burton a lot, but Christopher Nolan really got, and Batman's such a great character for him.
The darkness.
Yes. And just and the psychosis that is necessary to, like, somebody put on a bat suit and actually go out and try to, you know,
avenge his parents'
exactly.
murders.
And then, of course, who can forget Heath Ledger as the Joker? Is just fabulous. I mean, just the best performance in a comic book film ever.
Ever,
as far
and
as
maybe
I'm concerned.
will be ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't
Anyway.
predict the future, but
True.
just saying.
True. So Christopher Nolan he likes things that are kind of mind-bendy. He doesn't mind making you squirm as an audience member and making you a little uncomfortable.
A little uncomfortable, and also really reaching those depths of what even your mind can handle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think there's a lot of that in this movie.
Totally.
A lot of suspension of disbelief too in this movie as well.
So here's the general plot is that in this world of Inception, there's a new technology that allows people to enter a collective dreaming state, right? So, like, you and I could be in the same dream together by both plugging into the same machine
Right.
and entering a sleep state. And one of us would be the owner of that dream, and the other one would kind of be along for the ride.
Yes, that sounds about right.
And so this Leonardo DiCaprio plays a guy who is the head of a bunch of corporate raiders who mostly what they do is they're hired to sneak into other people's dreams
It already sounds ridiculous.
and extract information that only they would know. They usually suggest to the dreamer that there's a safe or a vault or something where you know, valuable things are hidden, and then they crack the safe, get the valuable information, bring it back into the waking world, and tell people, oh, by the way, this is the piece of information that they don't tell anybody.
Yeah, one of the descriptions that I read called it corporate espionage,
Yeah.
which I think is basically what they're doing.
Yeah, so they're totally breaking the law. I mean, not that laws have been written about whether or not you're allowed to enter somebody's dream state.
Very true, very true.
It's a movie. But this movie is about, you know, they get a new client, Ken Watanabe.
What happened to him? I feel like he was really popular, like around the 2010s, 2012s.
I haven't seen him in anything
and
in
I
a
haven't
while.
seen him, and he's so good.
Yeah, he is.
He's
He's
excellent.
very good. And his task for Leo and crew is, can you actually plant an idea in somebody's head? And
So-
that's what Inception is.
So instead of extracting, you're implanting.
Yes.
Okay.
And so he wants Leonardo DiCaprio and his crew of Dream Raiders.
His very attractive crew of Dream Raiders.
Yes. Why? Yes. Exactly.
That was like the first thing that first of all, I saw this cast list and I was like, okay, this is pretty attractive. And then I watched the movie, obviously, and yeah, just really very attractive.
Yeah.
All different kinds of attractiveness.
Any group of people with this much technical expertise could not be this beautiful.
No,
like
there's no
one
way.
or two of them maybe, but they're not all going to be this hot.
No, so hot.
But anyway, what he wants
But
is
we digress.
What he wants is his main rival to break up his close to be a monopoly company in
Energy,
the
right?
energy industry. And so his father just died. He stands to inherit this huge energy company, and he wants to implant the idea that Dad would want me to be a self-made man, therefore I'm going to split this company up so that Ken Watanabe's character could retain his foothold in the space and not be swallowed up by this monolith.
Yeah, I mean, basically the idea is he wants to give up his entire inheritance and, just
start all over again.
Not deal with his father's company, which nobody in their right mind would ever
no,
do that.
No. Even if you did want to do this thing where it's like, I want to do my own thing. I want to, make movies. I want to write Broadway shows. You would give the company to someone to run it for you.
Yeah.
And, finance your life.
Right. Or you would break it and then run one of those divisions.
Sure. Something. But no, I'm going to break it all up and then I'm just going to give it away. That's the idea that he wanted to do. So you got to go deep into somebody's psyche to do this. Now, one of the things that Leonardo DiCaprio said was we have to implant this idea so deep into his psyche for it to stick that not only do we have to enter a dream state, once we're in the dream state, we have to make that dreamer have a dream.
Right.
And then that dream within a dreamer have another dream. So you're 3 layers in.
3 levels down in somebody's mind.
Subconscious. To plant an idea that will then, and kind of who knows what that idea will look like when it comes bubbling back up to the surface. And then we find out there's a little bit of a backstory. He's done this before with disastrous results, right?
Yeah, like really bad results. And I don't know if he wanted to do this again to sort of like avenge that or change things, or if he's just, looking for disaster.
Well, and there's this plot point about if you do this for me, I will let you back into the country where currently you can't get in because of customs and blah, 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 and you can see your children again.
Right.
And considering how badly it went before. So let's talk about that. So here's the backstory to Leo, is that he went 4 levels deep into his own dream state with his wife some years ago, and his wife went a little batty down there.
Played by the lovely Marion Cotillard.
Oh, I love her.
I love her too.
So much. And to get her out, he implanted the idea that everything is just a dream. Unfortunately, when he did get her out and she rejoined the waking world,
I like that waking world,
as we might call it, she still had this attitude of everything is just a dream. And by the way, to exit a dream, according to the world building that Nolan did here, is you have to die and it'll boom, pop you up. And that's kind of true, right? When you're about to die or be injured in a dream, you tend to kind of awake with a start, right?
I think that's
that was
true.
only if you were 1 level deep.
Yes.
So like when you were
and not
multiple,
drugged.
yeah, and not drugged, yeah.
So if you killed yourself and you were too deep down, it could actually kill you. Your body might just react by just stopping. Or if you were, in a drug-induced coma and couldn't just ba-bing wake up, it could lead to other problems as well. And that becomes a plot point later on. But anyway, in the waking world, his wife, who is now batshit insane crazy, thinking everything is just a dream, decides to kill herself to wake up and just kills herself.
Right, because she's in reality and not the dream.
And that was an awful scene to watch.
Yeah, because horribly awry.
Yeah. And so, he's got some issues around, can we do this? And everyone's like, no, you can't do it. And he's like, actually, you can. And he's the one who's motivated to do this more so than anybody else because he really wants to see his kids. The only problem is every time Leo dreams, the remnants of his wife's memory tends to pop up in the dream, wanting to sabotage whatever he's doing. Yes. So she's really like the main villain of the piece, as well as this tragic figure.
Which I have to say, and I hadn't seen this movie since I saw it in the movie theater in 2010, and I honestly, other than, the scenes that you remember where they're fighting and the things are turning around and shifting, I remembered nothing of this movie. I was
the same way. When I went back to see it,
no plot points, nothing.
I'd seen this movie before, but I remembered the concept much more than I remembered the plot line.
True. Yeah. I couldn't decide, though, by the end of the movie whether she was actually his guilt or she was his subconscious trying to wake him up.
And I did read something that said,
very deep.
one of these critics said, I believe it will be accepted as canon eventually that this entire movie was a dream, that they were never in the waking world. Everything about what you saw was Leonardo DiCaprio's dream state, and sometimes he would enter other people's, dreams, but he was always the one dreaming this entire thing.
That's very Newhart of Nolan.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all a dream.
But as I was saying to Matt earlier,
that was hashtag Hashtag okay boomer.
Yeah. But as I was saying to Matt earlier, in a way, that's what a movie is. I mean, we are watching Christopher Nolan's dream, right? I mean, they call Hollywood the Dream Factory, right? And so you put these kind of fantasies up on screen. So in a sense, if Leonardo, what's his name in this thing? Cobb. If Cobb is an artist, if he's a storyteller, in a way that's kind of, we're seeing Christopher Nolan's story come to life, although he's much more of an author of this than you ever are in a dream state, because things can happen to you when you're dreaming. And they actually kind of, they build this mythology of like, don't do too much of this or too much of that, because your dream can actually turn on you.
Right.
And everyone around you is a part of your subconscious, and it will rebel against the intruder who's in somebody else's dream. Anyway, it all gets very complicated, and probably best not to think too much about it. Just kind of sit back and let it wash over you and enjoy.
Yeah, especially that idea of detail. Like everybody the architect had to create out a lot of detail. And I don't know about you guys, but whenever I remember a dream or I'm in a dream, I don't see that much detail. Everything is just a little bit fuzzy. So that did not make a lot of sense to me.
Well, and I think what they told it, the architect has to come up with some very particular things, but usually the dreamer's subconscious will then fill in all the rest of those blanks. And so you had to come up with some stuff, but not necessarily everything. And then when you got into somebody else's dream, like if it's your dream and I'm kind of like the intruder in your dream, there might be some things there that I don't expect, even if I architected your dream state that I pulled you into, because your subconscious is going to...
I've altered it.
And that's why, certainly, Ariadne never came up with Mal showing up with a gun to fuck everything up. But there she was, because it was Leonardo DiCaprio's dream, and fucking Mal showed up, right?
Right.
So let's go through the cast. Good cast in this movie. As you say, Allie, very pretty as well. We'll start off with Leonardo DiCaprio as Cobb, widely regarded as one of our finest actors living of this generation.
Not great in this movie.
I don't think this was an actor's movie.
No.
There
was so many details.
Yeah, this had a great concept, and it had a great look, and it's filled with all these great actors. But with the exception of one role, which we'll talk about, I don't think there's much room for acting and choices to be made here. I mean, I thought he was fine, but...
Yeah, sure.
And I don't know how he would have been better.
There were very few tender moments, very few small moments that you could actually expand on.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think in terms of his performance in this, it's fine. I always remember him from What's Eating Gilbert Grape, where he blew my fucking mind when I saw that movie for the first time. I'm like, who is this person? He's not, to me, he doesn't have the look of like your typical leading man.
Correct. I agree with that. And I actually thought that when I was watching this movie and seeing all the other sort of like classically beautiful people in this movie.
Yeah, and again, widely regarded as being this brilliant actor. But, to me, and I think they kind of sell him as a marquee idol. I haven't seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
It's really good.
Is it good?
I really enjoyed it.
But I do think it's weird that he's the actor and Brad Pitt is the stuntman, because Brad Pitt is the most gorgeous creature who ever walked the earth.
I don't think it could have worked you have to see the movie, but I don't think it could have worked opposite.
The other way. Okay.
Correct.
That's fine. Totally fair. But, anyway, that's Leonardo. Best actor in the world, so some people say, and in this one, just kind of walk through it because it's a concept movie. It's not really a dramatic piece. Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Arthur.
I love him so much.
I do too, and he looked really good in this
movie.
movie.
He looked really good. Like the suits, they suited him.
Yeah. Yes. What's the first thing we saw him in where he was like a young boy?
Third Rock from the Sun.
Okay.
Yes.
That. Yes. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, who knew he was going to grow up to be?
Seriously.
He's a Neville Chamberlain. Well. He's like a Neville. He's like an American Neville.
The glow up, as the kids would say.
Exactly. Looked great, and was a very kind of cold presence. He was all business throughout this movie. Like, he never had a break from kind of this persona. So once he was in character, he was in it. He didn't have to do much work. He floated around a lot, which was fun to watch.
He did.
Those very tight-fitting suits.
Those are the coolest scenes, I think, in the whole movie.
Yeah.
The weightless fight scene, that was really cool.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant directing. It's brilliant effects, whatever.
Ellen Page as Ariadne, who was supposed to be the young neophyte. I think she kind of existed, so it's like, we needed a new person on this crew so we could explain everything so the audience could just listen
totally
along.
What it was. Absolutely.
And it didn't seem clumsy because she was new.
No, she was new and young and
if they had written a character that had been, because they had an architect in the beginning of the movie who got killed or kidnapped or fired or something. So she was their new architect. But they had to explain how it all worked so she would understand it so that we could understand it.
Right.
And, she did a good job of just kind of asking questions and being that person. Love her in Juno. Oh, my God. So
Always.
great. So great
yeah.
in that movie. Tom Hardy.
My boyfriend. My boyfriend.
As Eames, finally not wearing hardware on his face.
So that you could see his beautiful face.
Gorgeous, gorgeous face. That jawline that can cut
Y'all
glass.
can fight over him, and I will take Joseph Gordon-Levitt any day of the week.
I mean, why do we have to choose?
Exactly.
True. I guess that's true.
More for all of us.
It was supposed we were talking about dream states. I just want to,
Speaking of dreams.
let's just dream ourselves into a steam room
Yes.
with all of them, then see what happens. Okay, so this is the performance that I think this is the acting job of the whole thing. Marion Cotillard
Yes.
as Mel, because she has to be loving and creepy and the object of one's desire and evil and all of these things going on at the same time. And there's no one more perfect.
She was so good. And I was sort of sad that I forgot how good she was in this movie.
Oh, yeah. So good. In fact, she was named like in the top 10 femme fatales of the 21st century or something because of this. And I was like, that tracks. That works for me.
I would vote for her.
In this. And because, again, she's it's an interesting presence. Depending on what kind of memory or what kind of dream Leonardo DiCaprio is having, she's a different character throughout. I mean, there's times when she's very focused on fucking up whatever it is he's trying to do in his dreamscape, or there's times when she's just lost. And she's a lost little child, and those big expressive eyes of hers just are doing a lot of work in those scenes.
I think that there are not a lot of actresses who could have done that role justice.
I agree. For
those very reasons that you just said.
Yeah, and she's so phenomenal. And she was she was also worked with Christopher Nolan in the Batman films, the last one. Yep. Tom Hardy and her.
And Michael Caine and Cillian Murphy and, so he's
got a crew.
Yeah.
He's got a crew. And so does Leo in this movie, so that's interesting. Ken Watanabe as Sato, as we've already said.
He actually wrote this movie for him. I read that in a little bit of my research.
Okay.
So, yeah. He only wanted him as Sato.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And, and again, not a huge acting stretch, but... as much as everyone else did in this movie, acquitted himself very well and probably had a lot of fun. Cillian Murphy as Robert Fisher.
He's so hot. Cillian. I know you guys are making it. Cillian Murphy is the perfect archetype of my type.
Okay.
Like 100%. And every time I see him on my TV, it makes me very happy. Even though he always kind of plays these like creepy characters. I don't know. Maybe that's part of his allure.
Yeah, he's got
perfect
kind of
at it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Adorkable was kind of your aesthetic more so than.
I mean, looks wise.
Okay.
Not the way that he acts. I mean,
so
he could be adorable in person. I don't know.
You want him slightly awkward in horn-rimmed glasses, but looking exactly like Cillian Murphy is what you want. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I like him shorter and skinny.
Taking notes, just taking notes.
Yeah.
So
call me.
But yeah, I mean, there's something a little off and jokery about him that just kind of never. It doesn't ring that bell, but he's captivating. Like, it's hard to look away from.
Yes, his eyes.
There's something about him on screen that does, and he's the victim, by the way, in this. He's the one has no idea what's going on, but they're trying to implant this idea of breaking up his father's company in his mind.
Mm-hmm. Which, just because of the characters he normally plays, I had a hard time seeing him as the victim at times. Like, I kept thinking there was something else going on with him, but he really, he played a very good part throughout the whole movie. It's just that I'm so used to him playing those kind of characters.
And maybe that's good casting for that reason.
Yeah.
It's because you weren't really sure. How much of this is he aware of? Because he is someone who, by the way, in this world with corporate dreaming espionage, he's been trained to reject people who enter his dream state.
Which is insane. I had forgotten about that part. When that happened, I was like, oh, snap. He knows about this sort of dream espionage.
Exactly. So he's kind of, he's not an easy target. He's not an easy mark in that way. Couple other folks just to kind of, throw in there. Dileep Rao is part of the crew, but the one who's not like a movie star. He was Yusuf. He was the chemist who developed the sedatives that put him into such a deep sleep that he couldn't kill himself to get out of it. Pete Postlethwaite played his Cillian Murphy's father, and
Oh.
he's most famous for playing Kobayashi in The Usual Suspects. And I spent that whole movie going, but wait, Pete Postlethwaite is an Asian, and then you find out at the end why that works.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't seen The Usual Suspects, stay tuned, because that was made in 1995, and that movie is 25 years old this year. Could very well pop up a little bit later on. He also played Friar Lawrence in Baz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet,
That's where I know him from.
which I hate that movie.
I
Because,
love that movie.
Oh, we have to fight about
So
that later.
much.
Because I was in Romeo and Juliet when I was
You
a
were.
young actor, and I played a very young Friar Lawrence. The man they'd cast as Friar Lawrence was suddenly unavailable. We were doing Midsummer Night's Dream and Romeo and Juliet in Rep. I had a larger part in Midsummer and a very small role in Romeo and Juliet, but they bumped me up to Friar Lawrence, and they're like, you know what, this will track, because if Friar Lawrence is very young and very inexperienced, he'll have dumb ideas.
Dumb advice
You know,
to the
so,
dumb lovers.
Yes, so that's the way it worked. But I was very attached to Friar Lawrence, and that's not the reason I hated Romeo plus Juliet. But I knew Romeo and Juliet so well,
Right.
that the idea of taking a balcony scene and putting it into a swimming pool offended me to my very core.
I mean, maybe we have to do a Rewind Project Extra where you and I watch this movie together. I love this
Hated
movie
it.
so much. It was seminal in my college experience, this movie.
And I'm not so Baz Luhrmann, I love Strictly Ballroom.
Yes.
Bring out the slings and arrows now. Hated Moulin Rouge. Hated
Oh, what?
it. Hated it.
I love Moulin Rouge, too.
Yeah.
Hate it. Romeo plus Juliet. Hate it. Hate it. Went to The Great Gatsby under duress. Was like, no, I refuse to see another. And weirdly, I loved it.
I hated The Great Gatsby.
Okay, there you
Ugh,
go.
That was the
So,
worst.
Yeah, so, Baz Luhrmann he's polarizing is what we're learning. He drives
so.
friendships apart, and we shouldn't talk about him anymore. And we just
Moving on.
We should just not talk about him. Finally, rounding out the cast, Michael Caine, who just is barely there, like, blip, hi, I'm Michael Caine, doing my Michael Caine thing.
I will
Yeah, but it's
watch
very,
him in
very
anything.
dependable,
Yeah.
Michael Caine. But Michael Caine and Christopher Nolan are like buds.
They
Like,
go
he
way back.
casts him
Okay.
in almost all of his movies.
So this is where you would cast him. That or the dying father in the hospital
Yep.
bed. And quite frankly, it's more fun to be
Alive.
the role that he played in Alive.
He is also the best Scrooge there's ever been.
Oh, with the Muppets.
And the Muppets.
Oh,
yes.
I agree with that.
I would go along.
Concur.
Well, I have not seen Patrick Stewart's one-man Christmas Carol.
Oh, true.
Oh, is that a thing that exists?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh. He does it every year.
Oh, snap.
In London, you can go see him do it. Basically, he just tells the story.
I mean, I don't care.
But he plays all the roles, including, and his Scrooge is apparently, and his Marley's ghost is apparently terrifying. So,
How am I just hearing about this?
I
I
don't
guess
know.
I'm going to go to London
Road
next
trip
year.
to London,
Yeah, I mean,
baby. Let's do it.
Or
Never-
Netflix, just make it easy on all of us, please.
Yeah, right?
That'd be great. I mean, he's done Scrooge on film. He's done a film adaptation of The Christmas Carol, A Christmas Carol. But yeah, on stage he just does a one man. It's Patrick Stewart tells A Christmas Carol, and it just the lights come up, blank stage, and he just starts telling the story. And he plays Bob and Tiny Tim.
Oh my
and,
gosh. Mrs. Cratchit.
and Mrs. Cratchit and nephew Fred and Marley's ghost and all three of the ghosts and Scrooge.
Oh, wow.
That's the thing.
Okay.
Okay, so getting into Inception. Matt and I had a little bit of a tussle before this started. He looked at my outline and he was like, I disagree with this so much I couldn't disagree with it more. The little title for this section I wrote down, more Matrixy than The Matrix. And all I'm saying there is I think The Matrix made this movie possible. The Matrix came out in 1999, so it was 11 years before this. And it's the first time that I ever saw a movie dramatize someone's either like
Thoughts.
dream state or like what's going on in their head as like physical actions kind of a thing. And so like while people are like, hooked up to their pods in this space station in the Matrix, they're actually, wearing cool clothes and kicking ass and doing, crazy mind-bending martial arts and bending spoons with their heads and all that other kind of shit. They were doing The Matrix. And I don't think that this movie would have been made had The Matrix not paved that particular pathway.
So you're saying that The Matrix is an inception for Christopher Nolan to actually create the movie?
That's deep, but kinda. I think.
Matt, it's too early for that. It's too early for that.
But as we were talking before, the top grossing film of 2010 was a steaming pile of shit called Avatar, in which people also plugged into machines and had another consciousness in some kind of dream planet place where they turned into talking blue kittens and did their thing.
I mean, look, there's only 5 stories in the world.
I guess.
You know,
how did we only come up with we all go to sleep and have an entirely different reality in our heads going on that we share, that's collective.
I'm sorry.
That's the key, yeah.
It's a collective alternate reality.
Wait a minute, you mean like The Wizard of Oz?
That was her dream, and that was only one. Zeke,
I wish
the
you could see Eric's face right now.
the farmhand did not go with her because no one knew what the fuck she was talking about when she woke up.
Because they didn't have access to opium. That's why.
Okay, but I mean, we've had a lot of stories before where people dream, and this is their dream, and all of a sudden they wake up. I mean, we couldn't have soap operas for years without, Bobby, you're alive. Oh, it was all a dream, honey.
It's all a dream.
I mean, we've done that before. But this idea of collective dreaming, like let's all plug into a machine and have a dream that we're all having together that's very physically active, that I'm gonna give credit to the Wachowskis for that. I think they kind of did that for us.
Okay, I'll let you have it. Because, reading your outline, originally it sounded like you were comparing Die Hard to Home Alone, because they both take place at Christmas and somebody's trying to break into your house. That's basically what it sounded like when I was reading your outline.
I never thought about before. That's actually a really good... Although, obviously, Home Alone, that little kid is a psycho. He is a sadist.
Well, John McClane was kind of a psycho, getting them out of the tower at the end of that movie.
True.
Or
Okay.
Alan Rickman.
Yeah.
Valid. Yeah, okay. The other thing I would just say about this movie is that, you can't think about it too hard.
No, don't.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt your brain. And then I think if you, A, it's going to hurt your brain. And then B, if you do, it starts to crumble a little bit. The threads start to crumble a little bit.
I think, there are parts of this movie that I was like, ooh, brilliant. Like, when they said, if you think you might be in a dream, ask yourself how you got here. Because you usually just plop into the middle of a dream and it's like, how did I get here? Did I put my socks on one foot at a time?
You never remember the beginning of it.
Yeah, you never remember. You're always kind of stuck in the middle of it. And I was like, ooh, that's really cool. And also those moments where I never have been killed in a dream, but I'll often twist my ankle in a dream and then start up in bed. Like, oh my... And that will wake me up. It'll be like this thing that's this incredibly painful thing that happens that makes me go bing, and I wake up. Yeah. So that has happened to me before, and I was like, that's cool. This whole idea of a dream within a dream, I was like, okay.
It's too much.
That's I don't think we do that. That's a lot.
I mean, I sort of, I suppose that this is no surprise given the way that I'm sort of talking about it, but I remember really enjoying the movie in 2010, and then on my rewatch, I was real bored. Really, and which is crazy to say because all of this crazy shit happens, and you're sort of glued. But I don't know, even the stuff that I remember liking, it didn't interest me this time.
Yeah, and the way that time works differently.
I had a serious problem with that when I watched it the second time.
I don't have a problem with the idea that when you're dreaming, hours can pass and it's only 5 minutes of you sleeping.
Yes.
But the whole idea that the dream within a dream can all happen while the van is slowly crashing into the water, I'm like, you're already dreaming.
And your brain only works so much faster. So I don't care if how many levels deep you are, your brain is still going to function at the same amount of time mechanically.
And you can probably skip scenes in the top level dream the way that you can skip scenes in any dream. I mean, it just... And dreams don't work that linearly. I mean, they're just not that. I don't necessarily know that I buy. How would you train someone to recognize dream espionage? Because very, very few times have I ever been dreaming and thought, "Is this a dream?" I just take them very seriously.
You just know. You just know it's a dream.
Or you don't,
right.
And you just kind of are weirdly panicked because you missed your train, and in fact, you haven't missed your train. It's 3 hours before your train's leaving, and you're still in bed, and your alarm clock hasn't gone off yet. But I'm panicked that I missed my train, and what the fuck am I going to do now? And then, but this it had to build some rules around what it was doing, and it had to do it in a way that, the fact that time works differently in all the different dreamscapes actually gave the movie some tension. I just don't think that it actually works that way. Mm-hmm. And again, if you think about it too much, and hello, I'm Eric, we've met, I overthink things. This is what I do.
That's why we love you.
Yeah.
It makes me good for doing a podcast about old movies, but, sometimes it makes it not as much fun to watch movies with. This is why everyone hates watching Moulin Rouge with me. 'Cause I'm like, this makes no fucking sense. Everyone's like, oh, shut up, Eric. It's Moulin Rouge. I'm
Shut
like,
up.
Whatever.
Yeah, we might have to do a Baz Luhrmann afternoon. Maybe like the next snow, I'll come over and like we'll just.
I tell you what, if we watch all 4, including Strictly Ballroom and The Great Gatsby, I will like 2 out of the 4, and then I'll just have to grumble through 2, and the 2 that you love, you'll have to grumble through the rest.
Right.
And if
I've
you're
actually
okay
never
with me
seen
grumbling,
Strictly Ballroom. I know.
What? Oh.
So we should definitely watch that.
See, Strictly Ballroom was before he had any money. And so he had to actually write a script
Like,
that
do
made
something,
sense
right.
and tell a real story. Because, then he started adapting things so he didn't have to work too hard. And then he just poured glitter all over everything to where it just kind of sparkled and was like, okay, I have a movie now. We should just take all of his money away and he'd make real movies again.
I love the Baz Luhrmann rant.
Oh, my God. So we got to talk about the ending. Because those last 5 seconds of film generated more conversation about this movie than anything else. I mean, all the dream within a dream stuff that we've been talking about was nothing compared to, did the top wobble on the table? And if it did, what does it mean?
What does it mean?
So I think flat out that this is completely an entire dream within Leonardo DiCaprio's mind.
Okay. That the entire movie was his dream?
I think the entire movie was his dream.
Okay. Because whether or not you believe that or not, there's still, you can still talk about whether or not he ever woke up from the dream, or whether or not being back in the plane and like seeing everyone at baggage claim was still part of his dream.
Mm-hmm.
And the clues for that generally are the top doesn't. So he has this little top.
Right.
That he
His totem.
spins, and it's his totem, and everyone has a totem, and the totem behaves differently in the dreaming world than it does in the waking world. And when he spins his top, in the waking world, it will eventually fall over. In the dream, it just keeps spinning. And so at the end of the movie, he's finally home. He has succeeded in his quest. Apparently, he implanted this idea in this guy's head. He's been let back into the United States. He's finally meeting his kids again, and he spins his top. And as he's off screen reuniting with his children, the camera focuses on this top that keeps spinning. It shows no signs of wavering until maybe, and there's a big debate about this, it wobbles for a second and then rights itself completely and just starts right on spinning again.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool ending, I
So,
think.
so the idea is, okay, if it's still spinning, and even with the wobble, it didn't fall down, he must be dreaming. The other big clue is that his kids have not aged a day.
Yes.
Yes. I have some information, though, about the ending that I read about when I was
Okay.
doing some research.
Ooh,
Really?
Tell me.
So, I always do a little research, just especially a movie that I haven't seen in a while. And I came across an interview with Michael Caine
Okay.
in Time Magazine, where because Michael Caine, in his, older British way, was like, Christopher Nolan, WTF, like, are we dreaming? Are we not dreaming? And he says that Christopher Nolan told him if he is in the scene, it's reality. And because he's in the end of the movie in the scene, it's reality. It's not a dream.
Okay. I don't know that I buy that, only because,
See, I'm so gullible. I'm like, oh, that's absolutely right. That's totally what it is. And you guys are like, nah.
Well, only because Christopher Nolan's too smart
Yeah.
to have kids the exact same age. He's apparently been gone for years.
Mm-hmm.
Those two little kids, if they look like that when he left, would be much older now.
I guess that's true.
And that plus the top makes me think. Now, I might be back to where Matt is, where that might be like the top dream that Cobb is having right now, but we've never actually seen Cobb's real reality.
Yeah.
That this entire movie
Is one level
is
down.
a dream, and so it's all at least one level down, and maybe we're at the top level now, and that's what Michael Caine calls reality, and maybe Christopher Nolan was just giving him a little piece of direction. Like, don't do this as weird. You're just a real guy.
Oh, this is shattering my
You're fine.
shattering my hypothesis.
I also wouldn't put it past Christopher Nolan to go to say, okay, let's make the whole thing happen in the waking world, and then the last minute show this top and make people wonder. Like, I would be totally okay if even Christopher Nolan didn't know the answer. He just wanted to fuck with people.
I'd be okay.
As they
I'm
walked
fine
out
with
of the
that.
theater.
Yeah.
That's a possibility. I don't think Christopher Nolan is a lazy director.
No.
And so the kids
That's a key point.
Yeah, and I think if he really thought that this was going to be reality at the very end, either the kids would have aged or he would have picked children that were of an age that it's indeterminate. So like they're in like early teens, so you couldn't tell how old they were at the beginning of the movie or later in the movie. And that way, it's more of a challenge for you. So I really think this was a clue that it was actually his dream.
Yeah, I'm Team Dream at the end of the film.
Hashtag Team Dream.
But whether or not we were ever in reality, I think is an open question for me. You know, because again, those kids, like when I saw them, I was like, but those are the same kids that he left years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
They're little kids. Like I immediately kind of thought of that and was like, wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, but it just when the movie came out, I just remember everyone kind of just completely gobsmacked with the ending, which I think, you know, Christopher Nolan might have just planned for that reaction, because I also think he, you know, he's a filmmaker, he's an artiste, but he also knows how to make a movie that makes some money and gets people talking. What about the grandmother?
What about the grandmother?
She was actually Michael Caine the entire time.
It's like Scooby-Doo. She takes off her mask.
Exactly.
I would have got away with this if it wasn't for you meddling kids.
So yeah, I mean, she's just kind of a, you know, do we have any clues in the movie of like, was Michael Caine, does he talk about his wife?
No, I don't.
You have this scene where he's talking to the kids at the beginning, and he's, you know, at the end is talking to the grandmother. The grandmother hangs up on him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which his mom hangs up on him.
Is it his mom or Mal's mom?
It's his mom because Michael Caine is his father.
Okay.
I also found that out in the research.
I mean, I could see how Mal's mom might hate him because he drove his wife crazy and she killed herself. You know, I guess maybe his mom is mad because he's living in another country and is ostensibly abandoned his children, although he can't get back into the country.
Yeah.
Maybe just mad because he's a criminal. And
or
his
like,
criminal ways have parted him from his family.
She's in her golden years and now has to watch her grandkids.
Maybe, I guess. Although that's not a very nice grandma. Kind of destroys my whole warm, fuzzy grandma feeling. But yeah,
the Wonder Killer Allie
she
Jenkins.
wanted to be retired in Boca Raton.
Yeah. She wanted an RV. She wanted to take an RV trip across the country.
I get it. That tracks. But you know, she's just kind of nowhere towards the end of the thing. And then, Allie, you wanted to talk a little bit about how the word Inception has kind of become a thing.
So I don't know if I ever really thought about the word Inception before Inception the movie, but, you know, I sort of feel like now it's part of the parlance. Like, people use it as like, oh, I did this, and it was like an Inception type thing. And one of the examples that I found was something called Bookception, which is a list of books within books.
Okay.
So you have a book about somebody writing a novel in the book. So it's, you know, again, 2 levels down about a book within a book. Or, you know, you watch a TV show that's about making a TV show.
Gotcha.
That's like
so
TV
it's very
section.
Meta.
Yes.
And now let's talk about Tenet.
Tenet. Have you guys heard? I had not heard of Tenet until about 3 days ago.
Okay, well, when I watched Star Wars, Matt, give us a 30-second take on the new Star Wars movie.
No spoilers because I haven't seen it yet.
It's not a fitting end. Endgame did it better of wrapping everything up, but there are some interesting twists and turns, and it's a fun romp.
Okay.
But the more I think about it, the more angry I get.
Okay. I'm not a Star Wars like super fan, so I just kind of went and was like, oh, okay, it's like Return of the Jedi again. Okay, cool. But after the movie, they're like, stay tuned for a sneak preview of Christopher Nolan's Tenet. And so I watched it, and it basically was this extended action sequence that took place in a symphony hall that terrorists were trying to detonate with all these bombs. And then these people that looked like they were putting on a disguise as Russian police officers went into the symphony hall and basically tried to clear out all the bombs and kill all the terrorists who were planted there. And it was just that was it. I mean, I don't know what the movie's about. This is it looked like it probably was one of those kind of beginning action sequences that gets everything kicked off with a bang. And it was cool. It was well done. It was riveting. I was like, but it was over. I was like, okay, I'm curious, but I don't know what the hell this movie's about.
So there's a new trailer out.
Okay.
So I would definitely watch the new trailer because it does I didn't see that trailer, but the new trailer introduces a little tiny bit of the story. So it's John David Washington, Denzel's son, last seen in Black Klansman, which is an excellent movie if you haven't seen it.
Okay.
And he is sort of recruited to stop World War III.
Oh. All right.
So, right, it kind of threw you for a loop based on what you saw.
Well, Russians. That
Russians, and
fits a little bit.
and he says at one point in the trailer, he says, nuclear holocaust, and one of the women, I forget which actor, she says, no, something worse.
Ooh. ...
So, I did a little research about that, and some websites out there think that this might be a secret Inception sequel.
Okay.
But, based on what we know, which is, 2 minutes and 45 seconds of trailer, I don't know if you could actually say that, but,
Or maybe it's a sequel in spirit. Maybe it's
Right.
just kind of like, this is where Christopher Nolan's head went next, and it was a logical next movie to make after making
Or it's a
Inception.
sequel within a sequel within a sequel.
3 levels down.
Okay. All right. Well, speaking of weirdness, it's time to play our game.
Yay!
Okay, so our game this time, I didn't think that many of our traditional games really kind of went very well with this movie. So I created a new game, and I'm calling it Dreamcast.
Ooh.
And what I would like you to do, each of you, is tell me about either a weird dream you had once or a recurring dream that you've had in your life. And then we're going to make a movie about that dream, and I'd like you to cast it.
Okay.
Using today's stars. And if you're in your dream, which most of us are always in our dreams, that means you get to cast the role of yourself.
Always the best.
Yes, and let us know who's playing you, and also who is playing all the other characters in your dream. Who wants to go first?
I'll kick it off.
Okay.
Okay, so as most of you know, I'm an actress part-time, and so I have the forgetting my lines recurring.
Oh, the
dream.
very traditional actor's nightmare.
Very traditional actor's nightmare, because that has happened to me maybe once or twice in my entire career, and it is legit terrifying.
Oh, totally.
You want to die. You want to jump off the stage. You want to, move to Siberia and change your name and never come back. I'm not being that is how you feel. So in my dream that I usually have, I'm solo on the stage.
Okay.
So I would cast myself as Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Oh, perfect.
Always and
Love
forever.
it.
I love her. And I feel like her acting aesthetic is fairly close to mine. And you never know what director is in the audience, sort of shadowy director. But let's go with, brevity, and we'll cast my high school director, Miss Bradley.
Okay.
I'm going to cast her as Melissa McCarthy.
Love it.
So Miss Bradley was, not nearly as funny as Melissa McCarthy, but she did have some sort of, high school director bon mots.
But, just because you're making a movie about a true story, it can be funnier than reality. So, let's bump it up a little bit.
So I thought that would be, and, I don't know if Julia and Melissa have ever acted together, but now that I think about it, I feel like that would be a real amazing comedy duo, because it's sort of, a little slapsticky and a little bit, smart comedy together.
Yep.
And so... she's the menacing director that you never really see, but you know her voice in the shadows.
Okay, very cool. Very cool.
my
And
dream.
it's just this, so it's just you on stage,
Just me on
forgetting your lines,
stage.
and a mean director who's mad at you.
Who's mad at me, and then I, at one point forget part of my monologue, and I just stand there.
Okay, so Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Melissa McCarthy, call your agents, because Allie's dream needs to be a
happening.
movie. Matt, what about you?
I don't remember my dreams very much, but I am one of those people that suffers from sleep paralysis at times.
Oh my gosh.
So basically, if you've ever kind of half woken up and you can't move and you're trying to wake yourself up fully,
Yep.
it is terrifying.
I've done that once.
I've never had that,
I've done
and that
that once.
frightens the
Yes.
crap out of me.
Yeah. And then there's always somebody looming at the door, and there's this ominous presence that's coming towards you.
Ooh.
Okay,
It
I didn't
is-
have that, but I just couldn't move. It was weird.
Oh, it's horrifying.
Yeah.
It's absolutely horrifying. If I was going to do that, I would probably cast myself as Kit Harington, because why not?
Go big or go home.
Exactly.
Go big or
Yeah.
go home.
I mean,
not mad at that.
Yeah, I mean, good-looking guy. And
You
then,
know nothing, Matt Graff.
and then I would probably cast the presence as Bradley Cooper, just
Because
because.
why not?
Wow.
Well, think about it this way. I mean, if I think he could play a really good bad guy. I don't know that he ever actually has, but I think he has a wide range.
Sure.
And then there's always the hope that it's
Yeah.
going to turn into something a lot better than that. So
A different kind of dream.
Exactly.
A different kind of
So
dream.
I straight to internet. I have a
Yeah.
feeling this movie is going to be,
and this is therapy for me for that. So hopefully that's what the
Absolutely.
dream will turn into
Yes,
next
for
time.
sure.
So sleep paralysis,
I will stay paralyzed for another 10 minutes.
All right. As long as you're stiff. What? No.
Let me show you a different kind of paralysis.
Okay. Moving on. So
Eric, take us out of this.
So I had this dream.
I
when
had a
was growing up.
dream.
A wonderful dream. And when I was a kid, I had this dream all the time when I was like in high school. And I didn't know how to drive until I graduated from college. I never got my license because I was living overseas and couldn't drive. At the age of 18 in Scotland, where I was going to college, I graduated at the age of 17, came to the States, and just never got around to getting my license and didn't need a car throughout
Not in
college. And so I didn't learn how to drive until I was graduated from college at the age of 21, finally got my license. But when I was a kid in high school, I would dream about me driving a car. And I was driving a car, and my sister was beside me. And then I'd be driving, and all of a sudden, I'd turn, and my sister was gone, but my parents would be in the back seat. And I'd pick up my conversation with my parents. And then I'd turn to the back of the road, and then I'd look over, and the parents were gone, but my sister was back. So it was just, and it never seemed weird to me in the dream. It wasn't a nightmare. It wasn't a freaky thing. It was just like my family would just kind of, and then probably other combinations popped up as well. Like maybe my dad would be beside me, but no one else would be in the car. Or, maybe my sister would be in the back seat and my mom would be in the front seat or something. I mean, there was just, but I was driving and like people would just disappear and come back. And we were just having these random conversations with whoever I needed to be there in the dream. But they were always kind of represented by members of my family. So as myself, only because this is the only person of note that anyone has ever told me I look like. Do you know who Adam Conover is? He's the Adam Ruins Everything guy.
Yes.
So that would be me.
So.
Okay. So
I'm gonna look him up, though.
Yeah, he does a lot of YouTube stuff, and Adam Ruins Everything is his little show where he basically pops the bubble on myths that are just not true.
Oh.
And
that
just
sort
kind
of
of
stuff.
tells you, yes. So it's like, he's kind of a host, but I think he's done some comedy and I think he's done some acting in his life. So that would be me. It would be a short film because it doesn't have much of a plot, not much happens. As my parents, they're not really, these two people are not really like my parents. So maybe this is a bit of a, wish fulfillment on my part, but I just thought, okay, people in there, and now I'll just cast it present day because Adam Conover's not a teenager and neither am I, and I haven't had this dream for a while, but whatever. Michael Douglas and Olympia Dukakis as my folks.
That's a power couple.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that would just
I
be
love
because
it.
my folks, they get along, but they do have, my mom has a way with a one-liner, and so she would be able to, Olympia Dukakis could
sure.
fling those zingers out there, and that would be a lot of fun. And my sister, my sister is generally, I kind of think of her as just the sweetest person. Like she's just really, really nice. She's like the nicest person, and genuinely nice. She's not like nice, but she's kind.
Yeah, like
is what
fakey
she
nice,
is.
yeah.
She's not fakey nice. And so I was thinking, who could embody that? And I thought of an actress who certainly has much more range than that, but who could just play somebody really kind and really sweet. And I don't know why I picked a British person, but I know she can do an American accent, so I would just ask Kate Winslet to do her best American accent.
Yes.
And, occasionally sit by my side and just kind of talk about stuff. And, I think that'd be Adam Conover's dream job. Are you kidding? We want you to sit in a car with Kate Winslet, Olympia Dukakis, and Michael Douglas.
Why
and
not?
just have conversations. Anyway, that's my silly little nothing dream, but pretty good cast.
I love
that's
it.
a great
I would
cast.
watch that movie.
Yeah.
For sure.
Just for the cast.
Just for the cast alone.
Okay, we're wrapping up this episode. It is time for skip, rent, or buy. For those who are new to the Rewind Project, here's what this means. If you give a movie a skip, it means I really don't recommend it. Just skip it. Just don't watch it. Rent means you can watch it once. It's a movie you could see. It's kind of a medium kind of recommend. Buy doesn't necessarily mean you must buy this movie, but it does mean it holds up to multiple viewings. You could watch this more than once and be continually rewarded by that experience. So we're going to go ahead and, Matt, you want to go first on this one?
Yeah.
Sure. I'll go
Inception,
first.
skip, rent, or buy?
Definitely a rent. for me.
Okay.
Yeah, if you are a Nolan fan, of course you would end up buying this movie.
Yep,
but I
for
think for
you-
most people, it's a rent.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm a solid rent on this one as well. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I have heard of people who watched it multiple times and they noticed details because Nolan's clever.
Yeah,
and
a lot of Easter eggs, I'm sure.
I will not take that away from him. But I'm afraid if I watched it too many times, like if I watched it more than once every 10 years, I'd think too much about it and the whole thing would fall apart.
Yeah.
And so that would not be enjoyable for me. So I'm a big old rent on this one.
So 2010 Alley would have been a strong buy. I loved this movie. I thought it was, groundbreaking and amazing and, insert all of that stuff. 2020 Alley is definitely a rent. I do think that people should watch it, but yeah, I mean, I was real bored. I was really,
It
really
seemed
like,
long.
I was twitching to play Candy Crush during it, which is sort of insane.
That's a sign. That's data.
It's a sign.
That's
Yeah.
data.
Yeah.
I found it to be long.
It was
I
too
just
long.
thought it's long. It's a long movie.
2.5 hours.
It's 2.5 hours. But you know what? I have seen, since the start of the new year, I've seen Greta Gerwig's Little Women twice.
Oh, wow.
I'm a Little Women stan. Weirdly. I thought it would be I thought I'll go see it. I didn't expect to love it. I think it's the best movie of 2019, hands down.
Really? I haven't
Above
seen it yet.
Cats? Really?
Okay, don't get me started on that steaming pile of kitty litter. But that's 2 hours and 15 minutes that flies by. It flies by for me. Inception felt like it was twice that long.
I would agree
And it
with
just
that.
felt long.
It was a good movie.
Inception
Yeah.
looks to be a triple rent
Triple rent.
from the three of us. We're all kind of aligned on that one.
Triple
We're not
sow cow.
always. We're not always. We had a triple buy recently. Last year, I think was Meet Me in St. Louis a triple buy?
It might have been.
Oh,
I
it's a
think
good thing
so.
I wasn't
Might have
on
been.
this at that
And
time.
then Midnight Cowboy was our last triple skip. And that was a
Yeah,
movie from
69.
1969 that none of us liked, and we all said nope, pass. Triple rents are not unheard of. They're a little bit more common. This is a triple rent for us. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
Watch it.
Watch it once and maybe never watch it again.
And
If
tell
it
you what,
was on TV on the weekend, I would probably sit down and watch it. If I had nothing
halfway
else to
through,
do.
I might kind of, because that weightless fight scene is pretty fucking cool.
It is
and so
awesome.
some of the technical stuff, amazing. When the street bends up to meet
Mm-hmm.
the sky, I'm like, that was pretty cool. Not sure how they did that, but that's awesome. And, glad I watched it. Don't need to see it anytime soon. This is the Rewind Project. I'm Eric.
I'm Allie.
I'm Matt.
Look us up on Facebook. Find us on Twitter. Leave us a review. And tell your friends. Please, please, please tell your friends. If you like the show, just say, hey, I'm listening to a great new podcast. It's called The Rewind Project. Be kind, everyone. Rewind.
You've been listening to The Rewind Project. You can find us on most podcast listening forums, including iTunes, Radio Public, Stitcher, and Google Play. And don't forget to subscribe and rate us. It helps a lot. Thanks for listening. Be kind, rewind.